coming to you from out in the ether, Eric Dubay and Renaissance Radio.
Hello, and welcome to Renaissance Radio. I'm Eric Dubay, and I'll be your host from AtlanteanConspiracy.com. I wanted to do my first podcast and call it Solutions to the System, because we can go on all day about the global conspiracy and international bankers, secret societies, political corruption, but at the end of the day, it's all just a bunch of hot air unless we're going to do something about it. And what can we do about it? What can we do in our day-to-day lives to combat, to counteract, to non-comply, or to just move away from the system and create our own path, walk our own unique natural paths? I've created a list of a bunch of things I thought of and broken them into categories: spirituality, activism, education and media, economics, and health. And I think between these 5 areas, I've come up with quite a few things that we can do in our day-to-day lives to combat the system, to create a better dream, as it were. So I'll start with spirituality. I think on a meta level, this is really a spiritual battle between good and evil, if you will, both existing in the self. And since the whole world is the self, then we need to heal ourselves spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. So, actually, let's start with health. So to heal the planet, you've got to heal yourself, because the universe is the self, right? It's the expression of us, quantum physically, as well as internally we can feel that we are one with everything. So to heal the big I, we need to heal the little I. So there's a lot of diseased, unhealthy people walking around. And how can we get healthy? Well, dis-ease comes from a lack of ease. So stress is one of our main things we want to deplete. We want to get rid of all stresses in our life. One way to do that is deep breathing. Whenever you can, take the deepest breaths into your stomach. Breathe in as deeply as possible. Hold it a little bit, let it out slowly, and repeat that process. If you really get into it, it's called pranayama or qigong breathing, and there's a lot you can learn and a lot of benefits you get from it, from health to energy, to relaxation and many other things. So practice deep breathing. And yoga. Yoga is a system of stretching and balancing, strengthening the body. I don't think of it as so much of it as a hobby as mandatory upkeep for having a human body. Just like eating and drinking, you gotta breathe, you gotta stretch, right? An old, dry twig will break when force is applied to it, but a young, flexible, wet twig will bend. Think about like if a gymnast was on skates and she slipped and did a split. She's used to doing splits, it's no big deal. She gets up, brushes herself off, and goes about her day. But what if a big fat guy, very unhealthy, has never stretched a day in his life? What if he's on skates and he does an accidental split? He would end up with torn ligaments, torn tendons, bruised legs, probably be in a wheelchair for a while. So just think about that. Yet if he had done a little bit of yoga, that wouldn't have happened. So yoga is body upkeep, preventative medicine, if you will. So we want to de-stress. We can do that with deep breathing, yoga, massage, reflexology, chiropractic adjustments, herbal medicines, detoxing like enemas or other herbal detoxes, clears out the system, fasting, give your organs a chance to rest, and fast for a day a week or fast for a few days and try it out. See how good you feel, how light you feel. Get a juicer and start juicing some fresh fruits and vegetables. Have that as your first meal every day. That'll energize you and pump up your health. Try acupuncture or Reiki, energy healing. Get the life force energy moving. Tai Chi or Qigong, pranayama. These are all great practices and healing modalities. And if you keep your body in an alkaline environment, cancer, for one, cannot grow, and existing cancers will go away. And most diseases just can't manifest in an alkalized body. So think about alkalizing both with water and with leafy green raw vegetables. Eat as many as you can. Which brings us to vegetarian, vegan, or raw. If you're trying to heal, you're not going to want to be eating meat, both on a body level and on a spiritual planet level. Killing just for your food, just because it tastes good, is not a very positive way of being on the planet. And eating vegetarian, you promote good health both internally and externally, because you're not torturing animals, imprisoning them, genetically modifying them, chaining them down, or doing any of the other atrocious things that factory farms do nowadays. Eat superfoods. Drink wheatgrass juice and spirulina, chlorella. Eat fruits and vegetables that are in season at the time. Those are the best for you. And consume lots and lots of natural, organic, whole foods. Try not to eat stuff that comes in a package so much. Stuff with preservatives, additives, chemicals, or dyes in it. Try to eat natural, organic, whole foods, and stay away from things like high fructose corn syrup, aspartame, GMO, MSG, fluoride, sodas. Right, sodas and gum have aspartame in them. It's terrible for you. Sodas also have phosphoric acid to cut the sweetness, because they add so much aspartame and sugar, not for the taste, but for the drug effects. They have to cut it with phosphoric acid so they won't gag from the sweetness, and that acid causes stomach ulcers and other problems. So, they put that stuff in sodas just to get you addicted. Coke is called Coke because it originally had cocaine in it. Try to stay away from those and all white flours, white breads, white sugar, white rice, all that stuff. Move into the whole grains, whole brown sugar, brown rice. Stay away from alcohol and cigarettes. At least the cigarettes they give you. If you're gonna smoke tobacco, just roll the tobacco, because regular cigarettes, pre-rolled, have like 30 or so known carcinogenic chemicals that they add to the tobacco, to the mixture, so that's the worst you can get. And alcohol, again, pretty much the worst. It's terrible for your health. Meanwhile, there's things like cannabis, ayahuasca, peyote, magic mushrooms, and other natural entheogens, natural healers, healing agents that are made against the law thanks to alcohol companies, tobacco companies, and pharmaceutical companies who want and maintain a monopoly over healing. But these things are spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical healers. And, think about using natural herbs and natural plants. Whereas Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine." Think about what I'm saying with the yoga, massage, de-stressing, deep breathing, alkaline water, vegetarian, raw foods, superfoods, organic, whole foods, staying away from the things I've said to stay away from, and then taking in maybe some of these things like ayahuasca, peyote, magic mushrooms, or cannabis, and see if they enhance your experience on all levels. Meanwhile, you might think about staying away from things like vaccines, which contain mercury and formaldehyde, which are very dangerous, and the legal pharmaceutical drugs they push on you, which contain coal and tar derivatives and all of these cancerous chemicals, which never seem to get rid of your disease. They just cover up your symptoms. You don't have a headache because you have a Tylenol deficiency. You don't have a stomach ache because you have a Pepto-Bismol deficiency. You have problems, diseases that are being created in other aspects of your life, and using pharmaceuticals or vaccines or, say, radiation, chemotherapy, or unnecessary surgeries to take care of these problems is rarely your best option. So think about stepping away from the vaccines, pharmaceuticals, radiation, and surgery that's promoted by most Western medicine. Try to use only natural skin and body products. There's all these chemical-ridden products like big-name creams, lotions, soaps, shampoos, gels, dyes, deodorants, toothpastes, cosmetics, perfumes, colognes, dish and laundry detergents, bathroom cleaners, insecticides, sprays. Most of us just buy those off the shelf, and they are filled with chemicals that get in our lungs, on our skin, and inside us. But there's natural alternatives to all of those things. You can get natural creams, lotions, soaps, mangosteen or honey soaps, butterfly pea or tamarind shampoos, natural gels, natural dyes, stick deodorants, herbal toothpastes with no fluoride, natural organic cosmetics. There's mascara in most there's mercury in most mascaras, and there's lead in most lipsticks, and again, so many carcinogenic chemicals in these cosmetics, while there's perfectly good natural organic alternatives that nobody seems to be using. Perfumes, colognes, same thing. If you have to use the chemicals, please spray them on your clothes instead of your body. Dish, laundry detergents, bathroom cleaners, all these things. Find the natural alternatives and buy from these companies that are promoting natural organic products instead of just buying what's easy, convenient, and maybe cheaper on the store shelves. All these chemicals that are in these chemical companies. Think of all the problems that these factories are creating. Do you want to promote them, or do you want to promote smaller companies that are making natural organic type stuff? Okay, so that's my health section. Moving on to spirituality. They call this the truth movement, the 9/11 truth movement, I guess. So I'm somewhat a part of that. I don't really care for that title because it's quite presumptuous to call a movement the truth movement like they have a monopoly on truth. But if we have to be branded by that term, how about change the truth movement to being the kind of truth that we can be sure of, and that is being true to our word, actually being truthful and having integrity, saying what we think and having the ability to say when we're wrong, as well as having the ability to discern but keep an open mind. I mean, think of the change you can institute in the world just by being truthful. And I mean true 100% of the time. If you make a decision to be true to everyone in your life 100% of the time, you don't lie just because it's convenient, or you lie because you can get some advantage or some edge. You don't lie for any benefit of yourself. You tell the truth for the benefit of yourself and everyone else. You stay true to your word. That would mean you can't cheat on your girlfriend or your wife, right? That's lying. That means you can't, something as little as tell those little white lies. Be truthful. Have real integrity. That'll change your life completely, and that will change the world, because it's a rare thing to come across people that are truly sincere, tell the truth 100% of the time to 100% of the people, and have real integrity. So I'd love to see a truth movement based on that kind of truth instead of the presumptuous 9/11 type truth that they brand us with. Another thing we can do is follow the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Just always treat everyone else how you would wish to be treated. And then you don't really have to worry about anything else, because you have done what you feel is right. And anyone that judges you is really just playing out their own insecurities and problems. So just follow the golden rule and be confident as you treat others the way that you would wish to be treated. And that means in thought as well as action, right? You don't just do good and then think negative thoughts. You have to start at the root and think, truly forgive and practice unconditional love for everybody, so that you're not just trying to do good deeds but still harboring a lot of negativity, vengeful thoughts, frustrations, annoyances, grievances, these kind of things. So practice unconditional love and forgiveness. Make a game with yourself to see how quickly you can forgive yourself and everyone else. Anything in the world that puts you over the edge and brings you into a negative state of being, how quickly can you forgive and get back on track? How quickly can you calm and quell the problems of the mind to get back to the heart center where you unconditionally love and forgive even whatever it is in this situation that's gotten you down. Be still and meditate. Get comfortable with being alone. Kafka has this great quote. It's, what is it? All of man's problems could be or would be vanquished if he could just sit alone in a room with himself with nothing to do. Something like that. Meaning that we create all these problems in ourselves and in the world, really, because we just can't sit still by ourselves in a room with nothing to do. Our minds are so toxic that we just create all of these problems in our lives and in society because we haven't found the time and the space, the stillness to just be alone with ourselves and meditate. And when people do that, like Jesus or Buddha or whoever, these prophets, these people go off by themselves, off into the desert or meditating under a tree for a long time. They live with themselves, nothing to do. Then they come back to society, and everybody thinks they're like enlightened. All they've done is settled themselves. They've become still and clear, like a mirror, like a pool of water, and they just reflect other people because they don't have all that stuff going on, all the thoughts, negative thoughts in their head all the time, negative emotions pounding them all the time. If you can just be still, like a pool of water, then you reflect the insanity of the world back at people, instead of being all agitated like ripples, and then they can't see themselves in you. They can't see themselves as a mirror in your being, and so your ripples run into each other and you create all these problems in society. So be still and meditate. Be non-judgmental. Break the habit of judging yourself and others. Don't concern yourself with others' perceptions of you. So, in your head, the judge and the victim, they're there all the time, judging everyone else and your own performance in every situation, often playing the victim in different situations. Try to break free of that. Try not to judge positives or negatives or benefits or disadvantages to things, and just be with things. And try not to worry about what people think of you. Just plant seeds and let them grow. Don't worry if people think you're going to be crazy if you tell them about international bankers and secret societies. Just be yourself. Say what you gotta say, and don't judge yourself. Don't worry about other people judging you, because they will, and they will gossip. Everybody will do what they'll do. You can't control that, but you can control yourself, and to not judge people, even in thought, and to not play the victim, even in thought. So be empowered and confident, and break that habit of playing the victim or the martyr. Listen to people. Actually listen, without thinking, judging, analyzing, or anticipating the next thing you're going to say. Actually clear your mind of thoughts when you're talking in a discussion with anybody, and actually listen to what they're saying. No mental clutter, just true listening. You can change the world just by being a good listener. Drop addictions, attachments, limiting beliefs, and base desires. So see what you're attached to. What are your addictions? What beliefs limit the things you do and say? And what base desires do you allow to control yourself when you could work from a higher plane? Try to remove fear and ego and replace it with love and compassion. When you feel fear, try to relax into love and get rid of that stress and that clenching that fear brings in every situation, and try to remember the truth, which is love, infinity. There is no such thing as death. All fear is fear of death, and all life is everlasting and only in transition. What we call death is just a major transition, just another bardo, just another state of being, just a new dream. Whenever you start a dream, you never know where it starts, you're just there, you're suddenly in it. Death is just another one of those. Remove the fear of death and remove the ego. Ego being the separate sense of self, the little me that always wants pleasure and It's always looking out for its own base desires. Try to replace that with love and compassion, empathy for other people, and leading by example. Try to be like the spiritual teachers. Don't merely follow a religion, but be like the avatar. Jesus didn't want a bunch of Christians running around following him. Buddha didn't want a bunch of Buddhists. They wanted a bunch of Buddhas. They wanted a bunch of Christs. They want people to express their uniqueness and not just blindly follow their words and create strict dogmas and doctrines and rituals and traditions and maintain hierarchical structures based on all of this. No. I mean, they wanted you to look inside yourselves and find the truth that they found by looking inside themselves. So whether you're religious or spiritual or aspiritual, whatever you are, try to be like the spiritual teachers that founded these religions instead of merely following the religions. So that's my spirituality section. For economic solutions, stop paying taxes. If we don't fund them, then they don't have our consent, right? If you don't believe in the system, if you don't think your representatives represent you, then don't pay your taxes. Get educated and look into the fact that the income tax, for instance, is unlawful, and there's actually no law that states that you must pay it. Watch America, Freedom to Fascism, for instance, to take a look into that. I mean, just think about this. If governments are going to exist at all, shouldn't the first thing they do for us be to provide everyone at birth with a piece of free, untaxed land, so that we have a place to build a shelter, we have a place to grow our own food, and we can cure homelessness and hunger right there, and everybody has their own place, but they don't need to work full-time, the slave system, to maintain their lifestyle. They can work if they want to, or they can just have a happy, simple life, farming their own foods, living in a shelter that they built on the land granted them by government. But governments don't do that. All around the world, governments instead make you pay taxes, property tax, and they maintain the allodial titles, so you just have a deed. Anytime they can claim eminent domain, they want to build a road or a nature preserve on your land, they take it away from you. And then every year they make you pay property tax. So how is it even your land? You have to work all the time just to maintain it or rent it from someone else. So you get sucked into the system, and then all the money you make, they take a part of it for their taxes. So you see how it's a tax farm? If these governments wanted you to be free, then they could, should, and would give you, say, a half an acre plot of land at birth, free and untaxed, so that you can be a free citizen. And there's plenty of land to do that. Someone's done the math, and it's like everyone in the world, 6.8 billion people, could have a half acre of land given to them at birth, and it would only take up the area of Australia, and you'd have the rest of the world left over. So this is doable, easily doable. Everybody could have a place to live, food, shelter, and wouldn't even have to work from birth. That's easily doable, but we are kept in a position of scarcity, so that a few rich parasites at the top of this parasitic system can maintain their easy lifestyles, working off the sweat, blood, and tears of the people at the bottom of the hierarchy. So, first solution is to stop paying taxes. Second solution is to get out of debt get out of debt, live within your means, thrifty but not stingy, buy and save consciously. As long as you're not unconsciously just going out and shopping and spending all your hard-earned money, then you can start to save more money and spend less money. Meanwhile, maintaining just the same level of happiness. A lot of people spend money to bring them pleasure, but then because they've spent the money and gotten that pleasure, now they have to work, which is not pleasure. It doesn't bring them pleasure, it brings them suffering. So they're stuck in a cycle of suffering through work so that they can pay for their pleasures. So try to suffer through less work and pay for less pleasures while maintaining the same amount of happiness so that you can live within your means and not have to work your entire life away. Then you can start to follow your bliss and your passion and try to make money with it. Start to have some free time and start to decide, what gifts do you have to give to the world? What business or thing could you create, a product or service, that you would be completely blissful and passionate if you could make money doing that thing? And you start doing it. Eventually, you shouldn't have to work for any corrupt corporations or controlling bosses. Eventually, you'll be making money doing what your heart wants you to do. When you do spend money, try to buy locally from non-corporate sources and boycott those big corporations by not working for them or buying from them. Walmart, Monsanto. Don't buy GM foods. Don't work there. Buy locally from farmers markets and work locally for families instead of empowering these corporations with your money and your sweat labor. If you do have money in paper or in numbers in a bank account as opposed to tangible assets, think about transitioning into tangible assets by buying storable foods, water, seeds, gold, silver, other precious metals, tools, weapons, and tradable commodities so that you can get out of paper debt currency and into things that actually have and hold value. Because as the dollar devaluation continues, as inflation rises, as they keep printing more debt currency, those numbers in your bank account are not going to mean as much, and it's going to be actual tangible assets in your hand that will mean the difference between rich and poor, life and death. Another thing is grow a garden. Start a co-op, or grow your own sprouts or grasses that you can juice. If you have all your own food, that's a big expense cut out. And if you're eating your own raw fruits and vegetables, it's pretty much the best, healthiest diet you can have. So that's a great solution, as well as getting off the government energy grid. They won't have to build so many nuclear power plants if everybody's got their own solar power, for instance. There's lots of ways that you can get off the government grid and start creating your own renewable energy. So those are my economic solutions. Next is education and media. The government schools, they're not the only way. You can homeschool, you can tutor, you can find alternatives to government indoctrination. So research subjects that personally interest you at that moment. The education system just treats people like robots and machines, just cranks you through this system and tries to force you to memorize and then standardizes the results of everything into this little machine where all humanity is sucked out of it, and the only people that excel are little left-brain prisoner robots. And that's not what education is meant to be. It's not what it is at all. That's indoctrination. True education has to come from inspiration and from your personal passion to learn something new at that moment, whatever interests you. So obviously, government schools don't promote that in any way. Homeschooling certainly can, tutors certainly can, and just your own autodidactic learning using the internet, books, and independent media. Turn off the government corporate messages on TV, radio, newspapers, and magazines, and actually get interested and involved in finding the truth about everything that interests you in that moment. And keep an open mind. Know that you're just a subjective interpreter of all the information, all the different theories and evidence for different things. But be discerning at the same time. Research, familiarize yourself with important subjects so that you can know more about them for your own benefit, and then help others and be more able to help others to come to the same understandings that you have through your research. Okay, and the last little bit is activism, more the traditional kind of stuff to get the word out, to try and educate people. Solutions to the system, like creating a blog, website, radio show, documentary, music, anything creative, and put positive messages in there. Put messages that expose important truths. Make a point to talk with friends, family, neighbors, and co-workers about some of these issues. Don't go in there, say, 9/11 was an inside job, and alienate everyone in the room type of thing. But instead, listen very constructively and hear where you agree with people, right? People inherently know the system is failing, and they know there's problems politically and socially and economically. Listen to where they are and see where you can agree with them and help their understanding along based on the research you've done. So make a point to listen effectively and then discuss effectively with people in your social sphere. And then burn DVDs, make pamphlets or posters, hand them out. You can send mass emails with links and videos to your email lists, or you can have viewing parties of important documentaries. There's lots of great documentaries, and just mention in passing about some stuff. If someone gets interested, invite them over for dinner and watch one of these truth-type documentaries and talk about it, and boom, you've awakened another sheeple. Wear shirts with important messages on them, like AtlanteanConspiracy.com. You can write it on paper money or stickers or bathrooms. Write important websites or little quotes or thought-provoking statements. You can do these on shirts, paper money, stickers. You can go to chat rooms, internet forums, or like Second Life or other things and expose important information on there. When I first started, before I had a website, I just went on Second Life and teleported around wherever there was big concentrations of people and talked about different, shouted about different subjects and gave websites, and then went and talked to people that would listen. I went on different forums. At one point I was on like 100 forums a day, just keeping up with different message board articles I've written, and then reply to people and talk to them about stuff. There's a lot of trolls and agents and just dumb people, but it's a good thing you can do if you've got, some free time and an internet connection. start a video sharing channel or use social networking to help spread the word, like Facebook, Twitter. Use those things to our advantage in spreading important links and videos and whatnot. You can call into big radio shows and ask important questions of, people like Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh and all these kind of people. They got millions of listeners. Call into their shows and kind of shake things up a bit by asking them questions about political topics they might not usually cover. Non-compliance. Just stop complying with everything that's invasive, everything you don't agree with. Don't fill out the census forms. Don't walk through airport scanners. Don't register your children at birth. Don't fill out any government forms that say application, registration, or submission. Don't receive RFID tracking chips or consent to unwarranted police searches or seizures. Don't refrain from growing, possessing, or selling natural plants that insane men have declared illegal. Civil disobedience means politely not complying with any law with which you disagree. So, think about where you stand and draw your line in the sand and maintain that. If that means not filling out the census or not walking through those backscatter scanners, then so be it. I'd say stand free. Don't register your children at birth. Don't register your cars. Don't apply for licenses for marriage or to drive a motor vehicle. You don't need the government's permission to get married or to operate a motor vehicle. You don't need to register your car with anyone. There's a lot of things like this you can learn about from the free man on the land movement. That's the last thing I'd say for activism. Research the free man movement. Research the difference between the law system and the legal system, and learn what's lawful and what's legal, and learn how to separate yourself as the flesh and blood human being from the corporate fictional straw man that was created at your birth by your registration, your name in all capital letters. So, that about does it, I guess. Those are some things we can do in our everyday lives as solutions to the system. Things that we can do instead of just complaining or yelling our heads off about this or that conspiracy to this or that person that is or isn't listening to us. There's a lot of these things that we can do in our day-to-day life that has a healing effect on our own self, which in turn heals the universal self, which is the one consciousness, the one being that we're all part of its dream. So let's create a better dream.